There was a moment I'll never forget. The air was heavy, the ocean calm, but the silence was unsettling. I stood hidden in the shadows, my heart pounding as I watched her shimmering tail rise from the water, reflecting the moonlight like liquid silver. Her hair slithered unnaturally in the wind, as though alive. But it wasn't just her. A massive figure emerged beside her, a man with a powerful, scaly tail instead of legs. His eyes, black as the depths of the ocean, scanned the shore, and for a moment, they locked onto mine. I felt exposed. That night, I learned the ocean holds secrets far darker than I'd ever imagined. My name is John, and I am an architect. At 32, I'd built a reputation for designing homes for Africa's wealthiest. Slim, with brown skin and a face some called sharp but unassuming, I prided myself on staying grounded despite my success. I thought I'd seen it all, wealth, luxury, extravagance, but nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced in Isikan, a secluded coastal village unlike any place I'd ever been. My journey to Isikan wasn't for adventure. It was business. Chief Emeka, a mysterious millionaire known for his reclusive lifestyle, had hired me to design a mansion, a blend of exotic luxury and traditional African elements. Emeka was unlike any client I'd worked for. He was in his late 40s, tall, with an intimidating presence. His skin was dark and flawless, but his left hand, oversized and covered in what looked like scales, was the first thing I noticed. "Don't stare," he said bluntly the moment we met, his voice low and commanding. I quickly looked away, but my curiosity had already been piqued. The village of Isikan itself was a strange mix of contrasts. Traditional mud huts stood next to marble villas with shimmering gold gates. Women carried clay pots on their heads, walking alongside luxury cars on narrow dirt roads. The locals were kind but distant, whispering among themselves whenever I passed. And then there was the rule, an unwritten law everyone seemed to follow: do not go near the water after sunset. I first met Adana on the second night of my stay. It was late, and I was working on sketches in the guest house Emeka had provided. The night was quiet except for the occasional sound of waves crashing against the shore. Then I heard voices, a man and a woman arguing. Unable to contain my curiosity, I followed the sound to the back garden, where a large infinity pool overlooked the ocean. There she stood, her back to me, her long black hair cascading down her back like a river of silk. She turned, and I froze. Adana was breathtakingly beautiful, her skin bronze, her body curvy yet impossibly proportionate. Her eyes, golden and glowing faintly in the dark, seemed to pierce right through me. Emeka was beside her, his voice sharp and angry. "You promised," he growled. "And I have kept my promise," she replied, her voice calm but commanding. "But this is not sustainable." Before I could make sense of what was happening, Adana stepped into the pool. Her legs shimmered, and then, to my utter disbelief, they fused together, transforming into a sleek, silver-scaled tail. I gasped, unable to suppress the sound, and both their heads snapped toward me. Emeka's face darkened. "Turned," he said coldly. "What are you doing here?" I stammered, unable to form words. My legs felt like lead, and my heart pounded in my chest. Emeka stormed toward me, his large, scaly hand grabbing my shirt. "Listen to me," he hissed. "You saw nothing. If you value your life, you will keep it that way." The next day, I tried to convince myself it was all a hallucination, maybe I was overworked or dreaming. But the village seemed different. The locals avoided me even more than before, their whispers louder, their gazes more suspicious. I couldn't let it go. I started observing Emeka and Adana more closely, noticing little things I hadn't before. Emeka's hand wasn't the only part of him changing. His eyes looked duller, his movements slower, almost labored. One evening, I caught him coughing violently into a handkerchief. When he saw me, he quickly folded it and shoved it into his pocket, but not before I glimpsed streaks of dark green. Adana, on the other hand, seemed more vibrant than ever. Her beauty was unnerving, her glow almost unnatural. She moved through the house like a queen, her hair flowing as if alive, her presence commanding attention. But there was something else, an undercurrent of sadness in her golden eyes. One night, unable to sleep, I broke the village's only rule. I walked to the shore, staying hidden among the trees. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow on the ocean. I waited, unsure of what I was even looking for. Then I saw her. Adana emerged from the water, her tail glistening in the moonlight. She wasn't alone. A man followed her out, a massive figure with a muscular tail that shimmered dark green. His torso was human, but his eyes were pure black, and his skin glistened with seawater. They spoke in a language I couldn't understand, their voices melodic but haunting. Then Adana turned, and her glowing eyes found me in the shadows. "Come out, John," she said, her voice echoing in my mind. I stepped forward, trembling. The man with the tail stared at me, his expression unreadable but menacing. "He shouldn't be here," he growled. Adana raised a hand, silencing him. "John is different," she said softly. "He is curious, not greedy. That makes him valuable." Before I could respond, Emeka appeared, his face a mask of rage. "What is he doing here?" he demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Adana's expression softened. "He has a role to play, Emeka. You know this." Emeka stormed away without another word, leaving me with Adana and the other creature. Adana stepped closer, her golden eyes soft but piercing. "You have questions," she said. "And I will answer them. But you must promise me one thing, you will not betray what you learned tonight." The night became a blur of revelations. Adana told me about her kind, the sea dwellers, ancient beings who lived beneath the waves, guarding secrets humanity was never meant to uncover. She explained that Emeka had saved her life years ago during a violent storm, binding himself to her world. But the bond came at a cost. "The sea does not give without taking," she said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Emeka is changing. He will become one of us, and when he does, he will no longer belong to this world." That night marked the end of my time in Isakon. I fled, leaving the mansion unfinished and the secrets of the sea behind me. But even now, far from that village, I am not free. The memories follow me like shadows, the sound of Adana's melodic voice and the deep growl of the creature with the tail haunting my dreams. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear Emeka's voice warning me, "Leave before it's too late." The world is full of mysteries, many of which we are not meant to uncover. I may never return to Isakon, but its story is now part of me. And I can only wonder, what other secrets does the sea hold? This story reminds us of the mysteries and wonders of our world, but also the dangers of exploring what is best left undiscovered. What do you think? Could something like this truly exist? Have you ever seen or heard something that made you question reality? Share your experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next shocking tale. Thank you for watching, and remember, some truths are better left hidden.